I'm gonna I was doing a voice for myself and helping myself laugh through all of my problems with the no with my I have some. I think that's the reason why my schizoaffective disorder came from. Sometimes I would get so angry that I would try to delve into different things or try to go into different facts or something like that. And I would wind up just reading a comic for hours sometimes and looking at the pictures. There were a lot of times where I believed that there were people out there that could help me, and those people did help me, but I think I made decisions that were irresponsible, I guess, and that's probably why I'm playing catch up right now. So, or playing Sriracha, because Sriracha is better than ketchup. I also noticed that a lot of times where I was, where I was trying to make those hefty decisions and those things that I was trying to get done, I guess, I realized that I was a lot younger than people thought I was sometimes. Or people knew, because I was very young sometimes whenever people came around me and told me how good things I did and stuff like that. I sometimes didn't know what they were talking about. I noticed that there were a lot of times where I found out that there were the people that wanted to be my friends, and I have a pretty high standard sometimes when it comes to friends. And that high standard is there are new characters. Holy shit. They killed me in one hit. That's the reason why I like to work in groups sometimes, because in real life it kind of complicates things sometimes, because the people that will, I guess, know about something, I guess, through someone else's involvement. Not through any sort of insinuation of fact or anything like that, but the fact that there are, if they're looking for two people and not one person, there could be a lot of mistakes, I guess, sometimes, where people don't understand. There were a lot of times, though, when I decided that that in my life I believe that there were some forces at work for me, and there were a lot of times where I thought that there were pieces of my life that were missing, and I realized that there was something wrong with me early on, but I didn't tell anyone because I should have, and I probably would have gotten the help that I needed, and I probably wouldn't be taking any medication now. there were also a lot of times where I decided not to say anything, and not because of anything that helped me or anything that made me feel confident. It's, I think, because I decided that
Elves were once the steward. As elves, we must be wise about where and how we apply our strength. I think today we have done enough to help the humans take back their city. If you think there is more that you can do for them, proceed. I'll be in touch. The tides of elven culture and power in this world have receded
level
far
15.
enough.
There were a lot of times when I believe that people were doing something behind my back, and I tried to let them know that I was going to let them go soon. I tried to let them know that I was going to be there for them, but before I let them go, I started to really give myself some independence sometimes, and a realization of knowledge that I was studying, and sometimes even not knowing. It wasn't anything that anyone was telling me. It wasn't anything that anyone was trying to tell me. It was the situations that I had been in, and the experience that I gained over time, and the situations that I realized because of the certain facts that I kind of associated with certain things. The realization that people make weird decisions sometimes because they want to be individualistic, and not knowing that a lot of people have chosen that beforehand, and trying to make it theirs, even though there's a
Got a lot of thirsty patrons today. Hey, got a minute? I've got orders to fill and my servers disappeared on me. The tavern's packed today and I don't have time to be running around bringing people drinks. If you can deliver these beers for me, I'll make it worth your while.
A lot of times when I believed in myself, I would get things done a lot more often, and it probably had a lot to do with the people that were around me, and the people who noticed there's a lot of times I noticed that that people were a lot of times I noticed where people wouldn't believe in themselves, and I would lose interest as such sometimes. It sucked because I wanted people to make sure that they didn't just believe. How's it going, viewer? If you want to watch or if you want to message, you can. Thank you for showing up. And the more I noticed around
What'll you have? Thanks for the help. No one gave you any trouble, right? Sometimes things get a little rough around here, but the ones bringing the drinks are usually safe.
A lot of times when I noticed that people were helping me in certain situations, I kind of got questioning, or maybe curious, I guess, about their motives sometimes. And whenever I decided that there were a lot of people out there that didn't know me or didn't understand what I did or understand what I do, there are a lot of reasons why I believed in things that were there, and A lot of people didn't understand whether or not I believed in myself, though, and that's, I think, the reason why they might have questioned or tried to get to know me in a certain way, to be able to find out whether I have confidence in a certain way or not, or whether I was just putting on a facade or a face. I do have to let people know that I'm pretty confident in what I do. I am extremely competent and a lot of different things, and
some of our Neverwinter Guard patrols have gone missing while exploring Joaquin Way. We fear they've
times when I believed that there were people out there that cared,
must be rescued before the orc.
I wouldn't do much. I wouldn't say much, but I would try to make myself an example, or I would try to make an example for myself, and that I could feel confident about and be confident with. I did and said a lot of things that were, I guess, I guess I don't just guess, but I do an educated guess most of the time. I try to figure out what people are actually thinking, how they're actually thinking it. A lot of times where, I mean, and also too, there's a lot of times where people don't realize that, I mean, I really hope, and I don't pray at all because I don't believe in that stuff. But I hope that people realize that the confidence that they receive sometimes is merely something to get them through the day. The realization of fact and the biggest part of what I believe in as a person and try to accomplish whenever I'm building something or making some sort of creation of my own, as far as artistry goes or anything like that. There were a lot of times where there's a lot of times when I noticed that the people that were in my life sometimes were the wrong people, and not only just the wrong people, but the people that had better intentions than what was perceived, I guess. I mean, they may not, I guess, people may not understand the way that some people work, I guess, or some people move around, or some people even think inside of their minds. They just, they don't understand where, I guess, all that stuff, those thoughts basically, like, they don't realize that people are thinking exactly like them, or they don't try to think that someone's trying to help them or knows what they're going through. And I think that most of the time, there are people out there that have been through a lot of different situations, and I think maybe the thought itself might be off, or the intention itself not be exactly what you want. But I've realized over time that there are a lot of people out there that do care, and if they don't care, they try to make a difference, and because they may not care about the specific problem that you're in, but it doesn't mean that they're not there to help.
Doesn't look safe, does it?
I tried so many times to be able to build on top of what I actually wanted and make a new something for myself, and then I realized as I got older I didn't want that for myself. I realized that those were ideas that I got inspired by and constantly got bombarded with certain things on as far as my friends went, as far as I got manipulated, basically. It's not bad to be manipulated, it's not extremely horrible, but always seek advice about intentions. Always know that there are people out there that probably deserve it more. And always realize that that even though there's a situation out there that people decide to... I'm gonna jump in. Yeah, jumping in! Woo! I'm injured!
Who approaches the Archmage Rickman? You fell. You fell as many of my colleagues and I did long ago, down into the depths of the tower. We screamed and died as the spell plague ripped our guild tower apart, leaving only shadows of our former selves. But it is not your time to die yet. I will help you leave this place.
Cool beans. I'm gonna go walk around. Walking around in the shadows. Gonna talk to a dude. Walking around in the shadows. Gonna talk to the people that are disappearing. Walking around in the shadows. Trying to talk to things that aren't there. Walking around in the... It's really dark in here. Oh, there you are. How's it going? Where'd you go? I've noticed that, I've noticed that a lot of times I believed in something that, that wasn't true. I used some of those things that, I used some of those things, some of those ideas, basically, to make a name for myself and to let people know that I had good intentions. And I realized that there were a lot of people out there that didn't get all those things, and there were a lot of people out there that were damaged, I guess, because...
Very well, mortal. I will save you from suffering the same fate as me.
Hope you didn't try to bite me. He almost knocked me out. Almost. There were a lot of times when I believed in a lot of different things, and I noticed that there were a lot of things manipulating me sometimes. And I also noticed that, or a lot of people trying to manipulate a situation sometimes to make it seem like I didn't know what I was talking about, or I didn't know what I was saying. To make it seem like that. And there were a lot of people out there that were behind the scenes trying to talk about me, tell me that I did something stupid, or that I said something bad, or that they don't know me, or that I don't look like that person that they once knew, or who's this guy picking up my beer? He doesn't deserve to pick up my beer. What's his problem? All those things I made up in my own head. There were a lot of times where I knew what happened to people, and the reason why I knew that yeah! How's it going, viewer? If you want to message me, you can. And there were a lot of times where I believed that there were people out there that that knew certain things and constantly cared. I realized that those weren't the people that I was trying to entrust my faith in, or put my faith in, and I realized that there were a lot of people out there that merely not really used things, but realized that there was an order to stuff, and that kind of stuff can be pretty daunting once you realize that people work together no matter what. No matter what their differences are, their opinions, or anything like that, they realize that they came from different places, and that's the reason why they believe in different things. So And a lot of people don't realize that whenever there are certain situations that I decide to put my faith in, or certain people that I decide to put my trust in, that there are a lot of times where I lack in faith, but I know that that's the reason why I lack in faith is because I eventually will realize that I have to eventually not let go of that person, but just try not to think about them. I noticed that when I try not to think about things, I get calmer, and I center myself sometimes with the lack of thought that goes through my mind sometimes. Not the lack of thought, but the centering of myself and the clearing of my mind, basically, of all different thoughts so that I can do certain things differently, like play video games and talk to myself. Or talk out there and try to see if there's any people out there that decidedly so believe the same things that I believe, or know the same things that I think I know. My inventory's full. I'm gonna have to go to my inventory. And when I realized that there were a lot of things that I should trust sometimes, and a lot of people that I should put my faith in, I tried to test them, I guess. I didn't really try to test them, but I said things that if they weren't around, if they were around, then they would probably not be around. But understandably so, that's the reason why sometimes I do things alone. I don't do all the things alone. I don't go out there if I'm outmatched in a situation, or if I know that I'm not doing well, or if I know that someone else is the reason why a situation is happening, and I don't know all the information, I ask for help, and I usually do. But there are a lot of times where where I believe the right things are sometimes given to not the wrong people, but just people who didn't really notice what was going on in the situation, or didn't really understand what was going on with the certain object or the certain thing that people were not hiding, but omitting from ever omission of truth, basically. It's not completely lying. That's very true, but it's still omission of truth. There were a lot of times when I believed in a lot of people, and I knew a lot of people around, and my family knows a lot of people around, and they keep eyes on me sometimes because they know that I'm a loner, and I like to do things alone, understandably so. But there were also a lot of times where I believed in something that was different from where I was at, because I wanted to give myself hope, even though there was something that I knew I had to leave one day. To be able to realize my goals and my purpose, basically. Not exactly my purpose, because I'm not a robot and not always searching for a purpose. Sometimes I walk aimlessly, and it's funny. But usually I have a purpose whenever I'm walking aimlessly. Trying to gauge my thoughts and center myself in a situation and realize that there are certain things and certain facts that I could get to, but if I know that I got to them, or if I know that I ever did anything of that sort of what's the word I knew that if I ever did anything different, I guess, I would find out that there were a lot of reasons why I probably was left in the dark. And I knew that for a fact, and I sensed it kind of in the situation because of the grown-ups that would tell me to leave in certain situations, and the people that would tell me to kind of just move and don't say that, or don't say something, or don't be that person that, yeah. But as I started getting older, I started realizing, how's it going, viewer? If you want to message me, you can. As I started getting older, I realized that there were a lot of different parts of me that I was denying, and I was denying myself a plan. And as I was denying myself a plan, and if this person is doing that, then I will have to not turn off the message boards. I will have to figure out what these people are doing if this guy keeps cycling through, because I don't like that. I know my Wi-Fi signal isn't that bad, so, and hopefully it's not a bot. I realized that there were a lot of times where I tried to be able to notice different things about myself, and when I noticed those things about myself, or when I found out certain information that was not really dormant, but things that I had made up when I was a baby, and the reason why my head was so big, because I gotta, because I'm a genius. That's why. Because I'm amazing, and there were a lot of times where I believed in certain things, and I knew different stuff would happen because of it. How's it going, viewer? If you do want to message me, you can. So realize that. I try to be able to make a better life for myself, no matter what the consequence. But I realized that what I was doing, and what I also realized, that the consequence of making myself a better life was never negative. And I also realized that there were a lot of things that I accomplished because of it. And a lot of times I didn't think I was doing something bad, but I thought I was doing something that without other people's permission. And I think those were the fears that actually manifested because of me not reading comic books or anything like that, but believing in myself for so long. I decided not to pay attention to other people sometimes and get to know myself. And I think where the fears came from, it was something new to me, and it was something that I realized that was out there, I guess. Something I realized that was for most of the time for me, it was daunting to meet new people sometimes for me. And then I realized that I had to force myself, not exactly force myself, but I had to make myself get up during the day and try to meet new people, or try to do new things, or try to be a different person sometimes, because what I had made as a persona wasn't the thing that I actually was, and I know that for a fact. And I know also for a fact that there were a lot of times where I where I believed that there was a certain differential thought in my mind that belonged to me. It's my thought. It was my thought, and I never really gave myself an answer sometimes. And I think if you answer yourself in your mind, you know, and people answer themselves in their mind all the time by thinking a question or thinking some sort of thing, or thinking even some sort of thing like I don't particularly want to call it a question because I don't want to mess with my own mental processes, thinking that something is a question all the time, or thinking that something is something else all the time. But realizing that the way that I build myself, or the way that I built my own mental capacities, was when I was when I decided that there was a certain part of myself that that needed, I guess, a certain release, or not just a release of a physical form or anything like that, but a release of self, and a realization of fact that there were a lot of people that believed in me that didn't really know me, and I think that they may have seen my work at some point, and realized that there were a lot of people out there that really do enjoy me as a person, and I really did try as much as I could to be able to make sure that I could do something for myself and to be able to make something for myself. But also realizing that I'm not that persona. I realized that version of myself that people keep seeing sometimes, or the confidence that I try to promote for myself, is only a reason because I sometimes feel not empty, but unobtainable. And I think that has a lot to do with my own viewpoints about people sometimes, because I notice that when I say a lot of people or anything like that, I usually mean like a handful of people sometimes. I don't really mean like a whole bunch, like a whole bunch of people or anything like that, because there were a lot of times where I believed that there were people out there that I got Orcs trophy, yay. When I say a lot of people, I don't mean a whole bunch. I don't like to tell people about everything all the time, and that's something that keeps me not safe, but centered and calm. And there were a lot of times where I believed in a lot of things that changed my life, and that realization that came to pass for me was I know I'm not going to take it all out of therapy. Like, I'm not going to give it all to therapy, because it's not the thing that I'm going to give them. I don't want to give them credit for helping me help myself, because I didn't pay them. My insurance did. The realization of fact that people are out there that deserve so much, and some people are out there because they deserve everything that they could ever want, but realize that no one's gonna pay you for work you do on your own. I realized that early on, and I realized exactly how my timestamp looks, comparatively speaking, to where it looked 10 years ago. I had no schedule 10 years ago. I had nothing planned sometimes. I had everything just completely up in the air sometimes, and there were just things that I would get to because of my certain knowledge of being able to understand that there were certain people that just that helped me, I guess. Not all, just certain people. And not just certain things either, because there were a lot of times where I had to release myself. I had to release what was there, and I had to emotionally charge myself back up and realize that there were people out there that sometimes weren't good, and sometimes weren't actually there for me, and that doesn't mean that I'm like, oh, I'm completely there. No, it's stupid. I'm not gonna say that word even close to that word. And I'm not going to try to say anything even close to that word ever again, sometimes. When I say a lot of times, there were a lot of different emotional realizations that I came to, and decided that there were... And when I came to those emotional realizations and realized that there were people out there that that didn't just care about me, but sometimes wanted to manipulate me and do things that they wanted me to do. I noticed that there were a lot of times where I realized that there were people out there that that sometimes deserve something better for themselves. There were a lot of times where I believed that there were and even though I realized that there were people out there that just didn't deserve my attention, I also realized that if they kept doing that, if they kept being insensitive to people, or if they kept saying that different things that different stuff that they thought was right and better or something like that, then there would be a lot of people that... How's it going, viewer? Again, if you want to message me, you can, or become a part of this conversation, because thank you. I noticed wherever I went, sometimes I would always find out new and different things. I realized that there were things that I read that were helpful to me, and there are people that helped me along the way too, and those were not few and far between, but they were pretty abundant, and there was a lot of them. There were a lot of times when I noticed that people were out there to people were out there to help, and in some cases that's all I needed to know. In other cases I wanted to get to know them better, and in certain cases I found out things, and I realized that no matter what kind of people that try to help or try to do things or try to be someone, there are a lot of times where I realized that no matter what I did, no matter how I did something, things are going to turn out the way they were. And that person or those people would eventually wind up together. Times when I saw through certain situations in my life and realized that there were people out there that wanted to help. There were a lot of times where people decided to live lives that were that to me seemed to make no sense. When I believe that someone will be done with what they do, when I know that someone is done with what they do, it's usually when I make an assumption. And that's when I realize that I usually am alone for a reason, because I make it a point to not trust people's judgment sometimes. And a lot of times I realize that there were people out there that believed in me, but I knew that wouldn't mean much if I couldn't perform. I realized that people out there can do things better than me, or they have more information. It's only because sometimes people try to funnel information to certain celebrities and certain people. They try to see what they'll talk about and how they'll talk about it before they research it or how they research it. And then they decide that they're going to funnel in the facts of some sort of thing, so someone seems smarter than they actually are. And then they funnel in a few different fictional things, and then act like, oh, everything is the way it is, and he was just reading from a prompter. And he was just reading from a prompter. But the most I find out every day sometimes is the fact that there are people out there that care, and in situations of dire consequence or in situations of complete and utter emergency, sometimes caring isn't enough. Sometimes just knowing and acknowledging someone's problems, or acknowledging someone's emotional distance, or degradation, or anything like that, isn't enough for them to be able to pick themselves up and build themselves back. And no matter what, no matter how they believe in themselves, or whether they choose to believe in themselves differently because of something else, or whether all their things or their emotional cues are on verbal command, because that can be very, very harmful sometimes. I think of things internally, and that's the reason why I think of things internally, because I don't want to let all the people know what I know, and completely all the time. Most of the time when I believed in a situation or believed in a person, I would believe into them until they gave me no reason not to trust them. And if they gave me reason not to trust them, then I would also realize and know that there are people out there that are going to realize a certain couple of facts sometimes, and those facts may be too hard to take. No matter how much emotional security you have, sometimes people just, they don't make it emotionally at first, and they don't realize certain things and certain points, and they don't realize that sometimes they burden themselves with stupid things, and even to not feel the fact that they feel as though they're losing themselves. And there were a lot of times when I realized that a certain situation wasn't going to help me or make me be a better person, and a lot of times I put down whatever it was that I was holding, or whatever it was that I was doing, and I just walked away. But the more I realized that there were people out there that cared, the more I realized that there were people out there that didn't give a shit about me, the more I realized that it didn't matter what I did or how I did it. People who want to take advantage of you are just going to want to take advantage of you. And they can try to put their blame somewhere else all the time. Like, this is the reason why this dude did something, this is the reason why that dude did something. And try to explain to you every single key word or something like that. But not realize that as they're talking to you, they're making up a story. Because they're just as smart as anyone else who does things that are good and helps people, but they use it to be able to manipulate people around them. And a lot of times I realize that that the people out there don't understand that
I will tell you.
and no matter what anyone believes in or gets manipulated by, there were a lot of times where I believed that I knew that there were a lot of times where I believed and knew that yeah, I'm not gonna be able to do any missions if I do that, so I'm just gonna keep on going. There were a lot of times where I realized people's intentions and I left because I knew that if I said something about it, then all it would do is make that person have a horrible time in their situation. And I just want to let that person know that there were a lot of people out there that just didn't have the best intentions, and not just didn't have the best intentions, but in some cases had the worst intentions. And that's the reason why I decided that there were people out there that, and knew that people out there were trying to become a part of anything they could, and any way they could, and nowhere in the Constitution does it say it by any means possible. And I don't live by the flag. The flag is somewhere else, and I'm not going to breathe in it because it's made of carbon and usually nylon.
You die now.
So I'm gonna also realize that and people are gonna also realize that that I really am holding back as much as I can, possibly, all the time, completely holding back. And I stop myself almost every single day, not because of a violent thought, but because of something that I know is wrong, and I know is completely and utterly false. Because people like to lie and like to say things, they like to do things that are funny, and they think they are funny pranks. They don't know that people sometimes really do like have all their eggs in that one basket. They don't know that that basket is already overturned and there were no eggs inside, realizing that someone stole those eggs. And they ran away. Where are they going? Oh, there they go. There they go with your what's the word? What's the word? Shit. I messed up. I'm holding back, and I'm really good at video games because I've been playing since I was about 7 years old or 6 years old. And I'm gonna go on a versus game, see if I can. And if they do the same move over and over again, I'll die and then I'll stop playing with them because I know that they're stupid. So realize I know that you're stupid. Realize if you want to do any sort of combos, you have to have timing. Then you have to gauge the person's movements as you're doing whatever movements you're doing. So sometimes you have to study your opponent and notice what his things are, what his tells are, what all the other things that he does. And that's the reason why I think people in MLG make so much money, because they are literally people are showering them with money because they want them to make a good name for themselves. And then they're going to give him a huge, amazing job. And also, Grandma's Boy was nothing like it is in the actual video game industry. They don't sit down and get tables and talk about video games like they're something that are far, far away or something. Sometimes they have beer, and it's really good. Sometimes they have lots of beer, and it's really awesome and fun. And realize that there are people out there that really do give a shit. And there are a lot of people that are really, really good at their job. And they realize all the negativity, and they realize all the negative stuff. But I wanted to go into a little bit more detail, because I wanted to see exactly the things that people do that they stop themselves at, to see whether or not the reflex itself is because of their admission of guilt, or because they want to stop themselves because they don't like what they're doing. And that's the difference that I think that people really need to understand, is just because someone stops doing something doesn't mean they're not gonna start it up again. Have a good day, and realize that there are a lot of people out there that that really do mean a lot to me, and a lot of those people are really, really fun to be around. And I may not go to a lot of parties or anything like that, but remember, you are your own one-man personal bomb squad, metaphorically speaking. And thank you for being here, one person I think that's cycling through all my stuff. But if my Wi-Fi signal is that terrible, then I'll probably see if we can get a new modem or something. But anyways, realize that there are people out there that want to help, but also realize that if you get their help, you're responsible for them most of the time, and you are technically their leader, and they are yours. So realize that the more you push plans and different things and different techniques, the more your plans mesh. And if the plans mesh together really well, then you can probably beat a lot of people in video games. But realize this: I'm just starting this game, kind of. I've got maybe about 30-40 hours, I think, in this video game. That's it. So it's not really that big of a deal. And I've put thousands of hours in video games before, and on one video game, and just literally been there the entire time, 5 to 6 hours a day, literally just freaking playing away. So just chilling out, and it's because that's the only thing that my mom would allow me, because I wanted to play video games, and I knew that I wanted to play video games, and I knew it for a fact. So I'm doing that, and I'm trying hard. Trying to be myself. So realize that there are people out there that exist for literally just you to be able to understand certain things about yourself, and also understand that there are people out there that deserve a big part of the credit for being able to inform me about people who were just keeping themselves completely under wraps and stupid, and they knew without even having to try. And those people aren't even the cops. They're just people who walk around. And I think that there are people out there, though, that watch over those people. And if they are in their respective things that they're in, respectively speaking, they don't curse their own things or stuff, or in front of people, or any of that stuff. There are a lot of times where I believed in something that was true, and then that thing didn't become true anymore. Or that thing didn't not become true anymore, but wasn't able to help me because of the lack of, not faith, but interest in any case, or in any metaphor. So the usage of what I actually believe in, and the things that I actually see in certain things and certain people, are sometimes what I'm afraid of. And I know that that I can get through it on my own, and I know that I can, but there are a lot of times where I really didn't believe in myself, because I felt really, really empty. And I'll know that what I find to be completely and utterly just what's the word? I know myself to be completely and utterly just misinformed about certain situations and people. And even though there were a lot of times where I believed in certain things and knew different people, I wasn't wrong about everyone. So, believe that there are people out there that care, and believe that there are people out there that know, and also realize that there are people out there that understand that there are people out there that are just the best sometimes, and really good at their situations, and really good at what they do. Be yourself and understand that there are certain people out there that want to help, and the reason why they want to help is because they're there and they're ready. And be yourselves, and don't ask for anything else. Sometimes just go along your way. Sometimes be humble and realize that there are people out there that got your back. And if you realize or think in any way that there are people out there that don't have your back, and you try to throw rocks at them because you think they're stupid, if they have guns and they're bad people, they'll try to shoot you. Because that's what they do. Because they're terrible people who have guns. Good people with guns don't try to shoot you. They put their guns in their holsters until there's an emergency, like someone trying to shoot you who's bad with guns. And yes, I went back to that because there's just no amount of just sheer thought or focus that I could even muster up to make myself not go back to that stupid situation where kids were on 60 Minutes talking about some sort of what is it, a metaphysical being, I guess? Because I think that's what they were getting at, because they're stupid. And they don't know. It probably doesn't exist. And that's all I'm going to say. Have a good day.